All right, I've got 5 quick tips here to make plein air oil painting more fun. All right, so first I'll list them, then I'll get into details. Number 1, troubleshoot your setup at home. Number 2, find painting spots nearby that you can return to. Number 3, put the emphasis on process, not the product. Number 4, think before you start. And number 5, find a motivated beginner to paint with. All right, so now I'll get into the details. Number 1, troubleshoot your setup at home. If you're new to plein air painting, you might want to practice setting up and even do a sample painting in your house, or occasionally I'll do them out on the driveway, even with a computer, or I'll set up a still life and paint outdoors, and you could do that. So that's kind of a way of checking to make sure that you have everything you need to do a painting, you're not forgetting anything. Also, it gives you a chance to practice setting up and breaking down. If you've got a system or a setup that's really easy to set up and get started, it's going to make you paint more often. So that's number 1, troubleshoot and practice setting up and breaking down at home and doing a painting at home as well. Number 2, painting spots nearby that you can return to. Oftentimes plein air painters I think the biggest fear is actually just setting up their stuff in public and painting in front of people. Typically that fear or anxiety or that discomfort usually only lasts for the first few paintings, and only while you're setting up your easel. I found that even in the beginning, when I was nervous about setting up in public places, even in the beginning, once I got started, I was fine. But by finding places nearby that you can return to, you also prevent yourself from just driving around endlessly looking for a spot to paint. So if you have a few key places that you're comfortable painting, then you can explore those places for years. I have certain places like that here. There's a place in Pacifica I've painted multiple times, and oftentimes when I don't feel like I don't have a lot of time to go find something, a new location, but I really feel like painting, I know I can go to these certain spots that are around here. And the reality is that it's good to paint the same place over and over again. It may sound boring, or I talked about this in the comments actually in the last video. It often takes painting the same composition multiple times to get a good result, because what ends up happening is the first time you're painting new subject matter or a new scene, there's a lot of problem solving that's going on. You're sort of figuring things out. It's hard to be as spontaneous maybe on the first go at a particular subject or scene, but then when you work those things out, you've resolved those problems, and the subsequent paintings can be more spontaneous and have a more sort of dashed off look, which is what I like. And another thing to remember is the conditions are constantly changing. I mean, the time of year, whatever the weather conditions are. So if you have a favorite spot, chances are every time you go there, you're going to be faced with different lighting and different atmosphere, etc. So having a bunch of spots will keep you painting and having more fun. Okay, what else? 3, put the emphasis on process and not product. So a lot of people, when they're starting out especially, and actually a lot of painters that are experienced too, are really obsessed with doing a good painting. Here's my philosophy. If you go out and you focus on the process, in other words, all the way through, whether it's like step 1, composition, number 2, getting your drawing right, number 3, blocking in the colors, and then number 4, refining, values and colors, etc. That whole thing. If you focus on the process, each one of those steps, the chances are you don't have to worry about the product. It's going to be a good product. If it isn't, you still will have learned something in the process. The process is what I really enjoy at this point, and it took me years to get to that point. But so now every time I go out, I have more fun. I enjoy the process because I don't go out with an expectation of creating a great painting. And if I do, it's always a joy. It's like kind of a surprise. And I just feel like I do better work now that I'm not obsessed with doing a good painting, where I'm more focused on the process. And I actually really love that. Like it's fun for me to solve compositional problems and to really carefully look for subtle shifts in color and value and stuff. I've really embraced the process, and it's made plein air painting so much more fun for me. And it's making me do better paintings, as I said. All right, number 4, think before you start. When I first started out, I kind of would be like, oh, the light's changing. I gotta jump into this really quick. And oftentimes the composition would suffer. Or I'd get halfway through the painting and there'd be all these problems that I should have foreseen, and it kind of, ended in a bad painting. I never quit a painting, like I never stopped. But I knew that it wasn't going to be good, because there were things that I could have thought out before. If I'd taken the time, I would have seen these problems coming. So I think it's good, and it's what I try to do now is, take my time when I get to a scene. Maybe do sketches or even take pictures on your phone and experiment with cropping just to get a solid idea, and then ask yourself, what are some potential challenges here? What are some problems that I see? I think that, if you kind of pre-think, you may look at a scene and say, all right, you know what? There's some things I don't quite know how to resolve in this particular view, or I'm going to look for something else. If you find a composition and you have an idea and you're like, okay, I think I know how to get through this, you're still going to have challenges, plenty of them. But hopefully it's not going to be something that, it's more likely that you'll overcome those challenges and you'll learn through the process. But it's best to see really big roadblocks before you even start. So think before you start. Number 5, find a motivated beginner to paint with. I really enjoy painting with people, but the most important thing is attitude. Like, I don't care how skilled somebody is. They can be a total beginner, but if they have a good attitude, that's great. I talked about in my previous video about, going out and painting with a local painting group and feeling like they just weren't welcoming. And somebody commented as well that they had that same experience. I felt that at plein air, plein air events or whatever, which tend to be competitions. I just do not enjoy painting with competitive artists. I don't like that. And that's whether it's in a competition or if it's just out painting with, other painters. And so what I find is that most beginners approach painting with a sort of enthusiasm that oftentimes, as they get more skilled and more accomplished, they might kind of lose track of that. So I find that it's really fun painting with beginners who are excited about it for all the right reasons, and they're motivated, and and then they appreciate if you can pass along tips and help them out and whatever. So I would really encourage that. If you find a local painting group and the people are welcoming and they have the right attitude, they love painting and they're inclusive and not competitive or whatever, I think that's great. But if not, don't let that slow you down. Try to find somebody who's also, is a beginner and is excited to get out and paint for all the right reasons. Okay, so that is it. Let me know what you guys think. If you have some other tips that make plein air painting fun, put them down below. I understand that getting out and painting outdoors it's challenging. There's no question. It can be uncomfortable. It's difficult dealing with like wind and heat and bugs and all that stuff. So it really helps to kind of have a checklist or a list like this to kind of make that experience as pleasant as possible, because as I've talked about on this channel, plein air painting has helped me grow so much as a studio painter and just as an artist overall. So anyway, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. As usual, thanks for hanging out, guys. Stay creative, and I will see you in the next video.